against as we speak.
You got tickets. Let's bring the tickets.
All right, we got.
There we go.
Oh, here, it's this guy. He's got a ticket.
All right, Mike.
Where to see?
Remember what I said?
No.
Help yourself. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. There's a sign up on the front door in reference to anybody that wants to sign up to speak, etc., so on and so forth. Okay, so reading of the minutes of the previous meeting, including the corrected version.
I'll make a motion on the minutes as they've been resubmitted.
Okay. Motion made and second that we accept the minutes of the previous meeting with the correction in there. Judy, okay?
What?
It's over here.
I'm sorry.
Is what was submitted or what was mailed out the corrected version of the minutes?
No.
Is there a copy of the corrected version?
Yes.
Actually, I won't go right on that.
Just briefly, in reviewing the minutes after they were sent out, I noticed one of the resolutions was left off.
I see the red and the red.
Yeah, and Al highlighted the red. Yeah.
Thank you.
May I ask a question to the other member of the board? Who designed the original new intake?
No. Well, no, excuse me. Malcolm Kearney, which is Arcadis, an engineering firm.
And is there an explanation as to why it was designed in such a way that it didn't have the same capacity was originally there?
No. And the design engineer from Arcadis is currently our design engineer at Schnabel.
What?
The design engineer at Schnabel was our design engineer at Arcadis.
So he moved firms.
Jump in here if you want. Well, I think...
See, I thought about it, in between meetings here, and you go from what would be 12 million gallons a day capacity to whatever came up.
We had an emergency condition. We had no intake. It had been washed out in the flood.
That's true, yes.
So it was done to... He said, in hindsight, he should have run the computational fluid dynamic model.
Okay, so it was an emergency repair that didn't...
And it was a replacement in kind. He said he should have done it.
Yeah.
And if we had done it at the time, we would have put the extra hole.
Right. Okay.
That's really the answer.
Okay.
You would agree with that?
How long would it take to do this?
A week, maybe?
It's probably a week of physical construction, and then you got to put the gates on.
Yeah.
So the concrete cutting firm would probably take about a week between mobilization and demobilization and cutting the concrete opens, about a week's worth of work.
Yeah.
And then after that, you put the gates in front of them. Another maybe 2 to 3 days worth of work every bit of that. So a good, weather permitting, a good 2 weeks worth of work.
So you figure this will be done by September, October 1st or something like that?
If we go into this quick, they have the special programs now, some of these manufacturers, where they have special deliveries on certain gates that are available like 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
But it has to, like you said, it has to click. It has to be like perfect timing. Nothing wrong with the shot drawings.
No, I'm just making sure we're going to get this done before we get the winter on top.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, any work that has to be done in the stream has to be done prior to October 1st, or we can't do the stream.
Right. He's not done.
So we're well aware of that date, and we're moving to that date.
Right, well,
absolutely.
That's great.
I mean, you can probably put the gates in later on, but
the gates are in
concrete has to be done now.
Yeah, concrete. The holes have got to be cut.
Good.
When we get to that point of the agenda, we'll have a plan probably by the end of next week.
Wonderful.
Okay. The bills and accounts?
Look good.
Look good?
Yeah. Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, motion made and second that we will approve the bills and accounts.
Like
corrections? All in favor, aye. 2014 audit report,
They distributed that
right here.
right here.
Everyone has a copy?
So,
We were very fortunate.
no, not here. Okay.
Once it's been provided to the board, a copy goes to comptroller, a copy goes to the city clerk, and we will also post it on our webpage.
So there's nothing we need to do with this then? This is for our information at this point in time?
That's correct. There's no findings. One of the things that we're going to do internally is we're going to maybe change the budget format for next year for some of the recommendations, but that, nothing major.
Question?
Mr. Will, has a question?
Yes, sir. Hi. I haven't studied this closely, but I said in the laboratory you're 98% expended through June. Is that kind of typical that you're,
I'm sorry, what?
are we looking at this?
No, we're not.
We're not? What are we looking at right now?
We're not looking, I mean, I've distributed our audit, our financial audit report.
Audit report.
I haven't seen it.
Certified audit.
Yeah, from our independent auditor.
Okay.
But that is part of the superintendent's report, and when we get to it, you know.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Cooper Lane Dam Project.
Okay, I know that Dennis and Abel both requested information. I do not have that ready for you, but I did want to brief you on a conversation that I had with Greg Swansea about possible funding. I met with Greg at length 2 weeks ago, following the last meeting, about possible funding, and he is optimistic, cautiously optimistic, that we would have a shot at getting at least partial funding through federal grant through the Commerce Department. And so, beginning next week, he sent me the application, some of the parameters. Alan and I'll chat about it. We'll sketch out an outline, and I'll sit down with Greg again and see where we go from there. Once we have the direction on that, we'll get that report to you. Because we'll include that information in that report. Because I think that would be relevant in making a decision where we go and how far do we go.
Is that in the form of a grant?
We believe, yeah. And so, you know, it wouldn't be 100%, but it would be something. So we'll see how that goes and see. In all honesty, with all the things that we've had, I haven't really looked at the application yet, but certainly it's just the filing is September 1st. In the interim, Schnabel is pretty well occupied with doing hollow work and the Vinnie water work that we've given them, and so this can wait for a month or two, the decision on Cooper. So we'll get you the reports, and you can have some time to look at it.
Can that be paired up with other possible sources of money?
Yes. And that's, yes, it certainly can.
Because reading some of the stuff, you possibly get more bond money, but you can't get more grant money.
But that's on the state of, yes, on the Cooper, absolutely, yes.
So this comes out of, you said, the Commerce Department.
Yeah, the angle, it all depends on, obviously, your grant proposal gets tailored to the grant that's out there. And his take on this is that the slant should be economic development for the city. And he's the expert compared to me. So I certainly will think about it, look at it from that perspective, and see what we have to support that, and start the application process.
Cool.
Roundabout way, but
Yeah, I agree.
What do you mean by roundabout way?
well, you have to show economic development, so I guess you're going to show that we're going to expand our water source as an economic development source, as opposed to just rehabbing the existing dam as it is.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
You can rehab it as it is.
But part of what I think about is every generation has an opportunity to do something to leave it for a better generation in the future.
Oh, no, I don't disagree.
Yeah, no,
There were several projects I was pushing in the last couple of years about
you know.
doing this stuff.
What would be other resources that would need to be brought to bear to achieve this opportunity?
Well, part of it is the New York, the new infrastructure improvement grants that are just out. That'll go up to $2 million. I don't think there's any one source that's going to say, here, Kingston Water Department, here's $10 million. I don't think.
No, that's all right.
It'd be nice if it was
I
there.
understand, life's not simple, but,
No. So we'll beat the bushes and look at everything.
yeah.
We'll see what we can cob together. And we can go to the ratepayers to do that. Work has to be done. At a minimum, you have to do this amount. It'd be nice if you could do this amount.
Right.
Let's see what we can do and see where we end up. I'll have a better feel for that by next month when I actually look at the application. Start outlining our approach. And I'll work with Greg too. To see.
Would it be reasonable to also bring the Congressman's office in on this discussion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. On all of this.
Yes.
Well, that and also our state representatives.
But this is federal.
This is federal.
Well, yeah, this grant, but the project or the regulations we're needing to comply with are state regulations.
You can see Kevin very easily in there.
Okay, so I mean,
And George, we'll get to know George better.
I think we need to, because again, it's one of those project regulations that's not an unfunded mandate.
Right.
So we're going to have a promulgated regulations here that we have to comply with, but didn't provide any funding to the municipality to comply with.
There's also, EFC has some flexibility potentially when we get to that point of, if we wanted to get creative in terms of recreation and opportunities and trails, and there might be some small pots of money that we can throw in there as well. So there may be some way to build the fund.
I would think it might take a little time, but just go over this as a good, better, best approach. Maybe you can't get everything you think you can get, but you get the best you can get out.
That's, anything's better than nothing. That's it.
Just got to shoot high.
Yeah, that's it. Clean. Go for a grand slam, we'll see what happens. Okay, move on here to make Halloween safe improvement.
As we mentioned in response to Abel's questions, what we know so far is we know the size of the openings that will bring us to where we need to be. We also know that we need at least 2 pieces of rebar between the openings for the stability of the structure. So this week, I will be meeting with, or under Greg's contract, he will have a company come in and locate those rebars. Then, obviously, the gate has to be in the center. So you have a certain amount of space. You know you have to have 2 rebar between each opening. That'll limit the size of the gates, and we're actually going to draw the outline in crayon on the side of the building so we know what we're specing, and then we'll go out and we'll start the process.
So we have plans now, or we're just in the preliminary?
Once we get this, once we have identified where the specific rebar is, then very quickly we will have plans.
All done by Shinaba.
Yes, we will have a sketch ready for us to go out to bid to get, a concrete cutter. Jim has provided us with a name. Greg's got a couple other guys, and so we'll go out and get 3 or 4 quotes. Price should be in the $10,000 range, somewhere in that neighborhood.
It's probably, they charge around $2,500 a day,
Right,
times 5, so we're in that range.
somewhere in that range.
And the purpose of the rebar is?
To give the building structural integrity, you're cutting into the structure of the building.
Oh, okay. All right.
And so Greg's structural engineer said, you can do just any size you want as long as you have concrete with at least 2 pieces of rebar in it between the openings.
Oh, okay, I see.
So we're gonna kind of work backwards. You know, find the rebar, figure out you have to have a gate, you know, say it's 3x4 is what you want. And one 3x4, well then you have to center the gate here, and then you can kind of.
The gate you're talking about is for water.
It's a gate, yes. This is a hole in the side of the building. The water comes into basically a culvert, and it'll just be able to close it off. During floods, you don't want all that water.
No, but you don't want everything else coming down with it down there.
You don't want the logs, the trees, the cars, whatever. You don't want all that in there.
So the number of openings is to be dependent upon where they identify the existing rebar?
He's pretty much decided that we'll have 2 openings just to give us redundancy and
2 new openings?
2 new openings, so the total of 3. But the size of those 2 new openings will be determined once we identify where the rebar is.
That's not going to interfere with the infamous fish ladder.
Absolutely not. The fish ladder's down here, and this will be upstream of that. Absolutely not.
And once again, this has to be done by October 1st.
Yeah, trout spawning season is October 1st through the end of April. So you really can't get in the stream before May 1st, and you can't be in there after October 1st.
Okay.
We have an open permit to be in there anyway, because we're gonna, every few years, we have to clean out the accumulated gravel that builds up. We have a permit to do that. We're just, thankfully it's rained. So, since I've had the permit in my hand, we haven't been able to get in the stream. But we will.
Is that an annual permit?
No, we do it every 5 to 10 years. It seems to be a more frequent occurrence because of the bank erosion that's up there on the stream after Sandy
Yep.
and Irene.
So you have to apply in order to get it, it's not just in place.
Oh, no, you have to apply every time you do it. It's there's about a 6-week holding, for the DEC to act on it, and Army Corps has to sign off on it. It's not hard to get, it's just,
A little visual.
yeah, it's just one of the other things you just have to go through a process. At last month's meeting on Mink Hollow, I was authorized to enter into an agreement with Schnabel for up to $25,000. That will cover pretty much the design as well as the rebar identification. That costs about $2,000 to have a company come down and do that. He's given us a time and materials quote for actual construction supervision. Jim and I both are in agreement that it's excessive in terms of not the cost per visit, but the number of visits he's planning on. And so we're going to talk to him about that further, but there's nothing else we need to do until we get to that point where we actually have to come down and look at it.
So how much is the actual construction? Did he give you that estimate yet?
What it's going to cost to do the construction?
Yeah.
I think we're conservatively figuring it's about $75,000. And that, 10,000 to cut a hole. And maybe 70, depends on the gates. We need 2 gates, probably $30,000 a piece.
The gates themselves are $7,500, just the gates, just materials
right.
that need installed. So 15 for materials times
Right.
probably the 15 to install. And then there's some additional walkway,
Yeah, we want
some additional side work while he's there.
a cantilever, a catwalk out there so we can actually get on the outside and clean them off, the gates, the openings.
So 75, a reasonable amount then?
That seems reasonable, yes.
It's not a big project by any stretch of the imagination. The lake, by the way, is almost full. Got 1.3 feet from the airport.
All righty. All right. Any more on that?
Yes, sir.
All set. Okay. A Phase 1B filter renovation project.
And well, that's where we can't get any more grant money, but we can apply for more bonding. I'm not sure that's necessary. We'll be rebidding that in a couple of weeks. We've made made some changes, some deletable items that weren't essential or more structural than they were for the filters. They're going to be deletable, we can do them or do them at a later date. We've just gotten, on that grant application, we've just gotten a waiver for the SCADA portion, on a waiver from the MWBE requirements, which will allow that to move forward much more quickly. That took a while to get that. And the SCADA, we should close on that loan maybe on the 16th now? Maybe?
It was scheduled for the 16th. The communication I've gotten recently is the 23rd.
Okay.
Will be when everything's finalized.
July 23rd?
Yes.
So that's the next one, basically. Is that the infrastructure improvement?
Yes.
Grant loan?
Yes, of which the Phase 1B renovation project is the
Part of.
biggest piece.
How big is that again?
The total grant plus loan is 2.718 million, consisting of a grant of approximately 680,000 and a no-interest loan at a little over 2 million.
Filter plant project is the biggest piece of that. Then there's about 750,000 in rough numbers for a system-wide SCADA remote control system. The engineer for that aspect of the project is going to stop by on Friday to just get a look, see a couple of our facilities that she's never been to before. And the tiny piece of that is also a generator at the Foxhall pump station. It's the only one of our facilities without an automatic generator. It's the only one that's, it's one of the most critical because it supplies the water to Benedictine. But back in the day, Joe Woods installed a fire hydrant on the suction and discharge lines. He had a fire pump, and that's great. But I don't want, if we ever activated that plan today, we have to put the hospital and that whole district on boil water. Well, we did it. You might as well not have any water. I mean, it's, so a small portion is the generator.
So when do you think we'll actually go out for bid now, for the new second bid?
We're out right now on the tank that's returnable on the 31st. I would say 2 weeks from now we should be out to bid on the plant, rebid the plant project.
So August 1st?
Yes, by August 1st. God, the month is flying by.
Isn't it?
So the tank is returnable
31st.
the 31st. And we expect it out the bid on the 1st for the
Yeah.
filter plant renovations, and that's returnable, what, in only 2 weeks?
30 days maybe?
Or 30 days?
30 days. That's certainly work that can be done in the cool inside.
Inside, right, and you guys want
Yeah.
to, we'll get a better shot for people.
And you might,
Contractors
you
are looking
absolutely might.
For winter work as opposed to doing it in the
Right.
summer.
Right. Again, the issue is the apprenticeship issue. But we'll see how that goes out. That's it, boss.
That's it. Okay. Okay, treatment plant, wash tower,
How about the infrastructure grant?
what?
The infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, infrastructure. Sorry.
I put the,
Looking at our own.
that's okay. I put the information out in everybody's packet about the opportunity for this is the money I believe that the state had from the banking system. There's 20 million available for drinking water. Applications are due September timeframe. Tomorrow, I mean, I certainly think the grants are going to be awarded based on the greatest impact to improve public health and drinking water. The EFC's hardship criteria will apply, so those folks will go right to the head of the list.
We won't fit into that category, right?
I don't know. I mean, we never have. And that's something we have to go through the comptroller's office. It's not something we calculate here.
It's all economic.
It's economic based on the city and median income on, so we'll run the equations again. We'll try that, there's no question about that. And Al and I briefly chatting about this. Seems that our experience is that if you have a project that's ready, the chances of getting funded are better. So we're kind of kicking around maybe the plant tank project might be something that we would, because you're limited to $2 million. But we have a staff meeting tomorrow, and I think that's one of the things we're going to, see if we can figure out how to put out the most attractive application.
Well, you can apply for multiple times, though,
That's
right?
exactly, well, you can, and we might, there's nothing that says you can't submit 2 applications, one for the Cooper Lake project and one for the, and I think we'll do that. We can talk about that.
That other one, we were afraid to put too many in or something, and there was may have been an outside opportunity to get something else funded, right? Wasn't that from the earlier project?
The SCADA project, the storm mitigation? Yeah, I just couldn't figure out how to make that project fit with the criteria that they had, but, yes, that was where they had 19 applications and they funded 20 of the proposals in full. So, yes. So we'll have more details on that, have that fleshed out better. The application process is not that difficult, it's not easy by any means. The real hurdle and the real push comes in once you've been given preliminary the go-ahead, accumulating all the other documentation that you have to do, and that's where we were with the SCADA grant and the storm mitigation loan grant. I mean, writing the grant proposal, sending it in, getting it funded, that was by comparison to all the pieces that we had to come up with later on. That was the easy part. But they're giving us money, there's nothing we won't do to get it, so almost.
Is this in addition to, or does this replace the state revolving loan fund?
In addition to.
Okay, so they still have the state revolving loan fund?
EFC's, yep, they do.
Okay.
Federal funds this year for water were better than sewer. First time that's ever happened. The New York State Health Department has done a phenomenal job of, as you know, it's all based on the needs assessment. And every 10 years, so far, first year they didn't do so well. This year, the last go around, they did a phenomenal job of, forcing all of us to sit down and say, well, this is what we need to do, and giving them the wish list. As a result, New York gets a huge hunk of that compared to some other states. The Congress approves a pot of money, and then it's apportioned to the states through the EPA based on the needs assessment that for sewer or clean water, the DEC compiles, and for water that the health departments compile. And our health department has done a pretty good job of making sure that New York gets a really good hunk of that money.
So would any of our dam work?
I think it would.
I mean, you talk about infrastructure, I mean, that's...
That's what we said. We try to look at the Cooper Lake, send one application for that, and try the tank on the other one, and see what happens. This is where,
It's based upon economic need, right?
It's based on, EFC has a very engineer-like approach, and it's based on a point system by public health improvement. So you could have a project that's going to impact one area of your system tremendously. Like take Phoenicia as an example, where they have a whole neighborhood that's on boil water. That's only a handful of people. You can go up your system and say, God, at our source or at our treatment plant, and it's going to benefit everybody in the Kingston Water Department, plus the people in the town of Ulster that we sell water to, the Ulster District. You got a better shot at getting that money, as I read that application.
So my question is going toward the economic zones within communities, which Kingston has had for a long time. Not the right terminology. We have economic zones in the city of Kingston that are definitely defined as poverty level zones.
Mhm.
Is that information helpful?
The hardship aspect of the application, yes, it is. And there's a formula for that, and Alice, we've been down that road before, and previously, the city of Kingston did not qualify. However, we may now.
Well, in one of the studies that was going on here, I was stunned to find out the city of Kingston average income was $24,000 versus the county of $58,000. That's a tremendous percentage difference.
Correct. And we're
And
competing.
considering that our number is added into the 58, the gap is even greater. If you think about it on average.
That's for
Sure.
You know, and frankly, when we got the Federal Enterprise Community years ago, that was one of the biggest factors in helping us work with Newburgh to qualify for the Federal Enterprise.
I remember. One of the things is we're competing with upstate communities.
Oh, sure. I
Median
understand.
income.
Well, the people in New York City think we're upstate, so we're okay.
In the city.
Como found out we're Durham Warwick. And it wasn't in Canada yet.
But close. But close. So that's kind of just informational to know that we got that notice last week. And I mean, my personal opinion, and I hope the board shares it, is I think we have an obligation to at least submit at least one, if not two, applications.
Oh, absolutely.
Money's there. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't try to chase it as best we could.
Take a shot.
Right.
Let them tell us that.
In fact, I would almost think you'd take the good, better, best approach. In other words, a bigger number, a middle number, and a smaller bracket. Right, three of them. Because they only got $20 million to sprinkle around. If I,
That's right.
you know, be willing to sprinkle a couple $100,000 into something, and
We can do that.
then they all feel good that it did something for here. And
Yeah.
We can try that.
You have your list of all your projects you want to,
Oh, sure,
capital improvement
sure.
projects, and look and see if there's something on there that might fit on the lower end too, as opposed to the higher end.
We can do that.
Alrighty. Anything else on that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The tower watch?
Well, we went out to bid on this 19th. Pre-bid meeting is next week, on the 15th, I believe that's Tuesday? Maybe it's Wednesday. Pre-bid meeting is Wednesday at the plant at 10 a.m. You knew that, right, Deb? Bids are due the 31st, and Tom hopefully will have a notice, a recommendation of award to the board for their August 12th meeting. In chatting with Tom today, he's a little, and Tom Lawson, he's our design engineer, he's a little concerned that there's only 2 manufacturers of these glass line tanks. And he's heard from one manufacturer, and the other manufacturer has not responded. So he's going to try to make sure that they're going to be there. But he was also contacted by another manufacturer who has a similar product, but it's not a glass line, it's epoxy coated. So you may want to have a chat with him about the advisability of including that as an add deduct kind of thing. The downside of the powder coating is it has to be repainted within 15 years. So it's cheaper, but there's a plus and a minus. There's a maintenance issue. Glass line is not. So,
So what's the life expectancy on the glass line tank? I mean, there's no other maintenance once you install it?
not that I'm aware of.
There's 30, I think we had last, there's a report on it. They go and,
Yeah, I have,
there's some of the
they need to be
joints,
inspected.
they have to be inspected, and some of the joints have to get recorked, but it's,
Right, but
it's so minimal.
Right.
It's like every 15 years you go in,
Right.
you check some of the joints and you recork them. It's so minimal, there's no major painting like Florence Street. You don't have that aspect. If we have this other equivalent, so-called, it may be different. So,
Well, and he's not too hot on it, but he just wants to cover our bases and give the board the best possible choice. So.
But with the spec, the glass line spec tank, what would be the life expectancy of that tank?
50 years?
50 years.
Oh,
You don't have to worry about it now.
Yeah, well, we'll be here for that.
You might.
Hey, we'll be here.
You might. I know I would.
No, Joe, everything I do today is the 35-year rule. Somebody else is gonna fix it next.
I'd like to know maintenance.
True, true. He's just, he's just trying to present all sides. So I said that I would mention it to Jim. They can have a conversation.
Hanging out, hanging later, I guess.
I'm not really a fan of, let's see how the bids come out. So, that's it. It's gonna be sky blue. So, should-
Any conceptual price of what one of these tanks costs?
Yeah, I mean, it was 1.7, was it not? Something like that, 1.7 million?
1.4 was
1.4 was
the
the number.
total
Right.
proposal.
And we have
I mean, that's the bond that
right, and
was
there's
asked
a,
or approved by
Right.
the common council.
1.43 million.
Excuse me, is that labor and materials?
Correct.
Change order?
Okay. Change order number 1 for Foxhole Avenue.
it's the only change order.
Okay.
I'll move it.
$9,909.
I'll make a motion on that.
Second.
Abel, first, Ray, second.
I mean, this work's already been completed.
Correct, and it was one of those, it was beyond it was beyond the bid spec, I mean, what they did. I mean, it certainly, we all agree it's a legitimate thing.
So to pay for this, was there contingencies in the bond, or how do we, does this come out of operating expense?
No. I think there's money in the bond, there's a contingency in the bond.
Al, you know?
This is for the CSX?
Correct.
Yeah.
29,000.
30,000 basically, 20, almost 30,000. What does that do to the bond?
All right, well, the initial bond amount for the CSX was in the neighborhood of 600,000. CSX was done in 2 phases, and the first phase was approximately 365,000,
And this is 118.
and the second phase is,
Including this change order?
This is around 160, I'm sorry,
yeah, right.
160.
So we got plenty of money.
Yes.
In the
Yeah.
bond.
Well, the bond, it's nice if you don't use all the money in the bond, then you'll pay it back.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Okay. So we're,
Yes, Brett.
So on this change order, it sounds like there was no additional engineering time for it, and that figure was strictly for construction labor and material, is that correct?
You got it.
It's kind of done on the fly.
Hopefully they approved it.
Hmm?
Hopefully the engineers approved it.
Well, they were there the whole time, absolutely, absolutely. And they proved that, that's the reason we have the change order, because they actually signed off on it to send it to us. Yeah, so I mean, if they didn't approve it, we wouldn't have that from them.
So the work just fell under their contract.
It was really even easier than that. We had a pump, it was there. Because of the condition of the main that it was going through, it wasn't able to keep up. What do? Get another pump. It was easy.
we vote on that? And I asked the question, so I don't know if you have to.
Call the vote.
We did not vote.
Okay.
Call the vote.
Aye.
All right. Aye. Objections? Carried. Unanimous vote. Okay. Correspondence.
Joe? Question?
Yeah.
A question on the agenda, what's on the agenda, what's not on the agenda. Should I ask now or after correspondence?
Yeah, I didn't.
Just had a question on the 160 Sophus Avenue. I can ask it now or after the correspondence.
Let's do the correspondence. Get that
Yeah,
out.
we'll
It's not
do
that
the
big a deal.
correspondence and then, yeah. Okay, let's,
We have two letters from customers, one of which I thought I included in your packet, but I don't think that it ever got there. A letter from Mr. Ronnie Wade of Deo Street.
that's it.
Okay, I have that letter, when I went to make, I noticed it wasn't in my packet, so I have to go retrieve it. Essentially, this letter is, Mr. Wade had a frozen meter, which many people had this winter because it was a horrible winter. And Mr. Wade is contending that we were there twice and our actions caused the meter to freeze. That's ridiculous on its face. There's nothing we could do that would cause it. But I've searched our records fairly exhaustively. We were only there once this year. On February 14th, we were there just once. We were there 3 years ago and changed the frozen meter. So I'm just going to send them a letter and tell them that our,
Now, if the meter is frozen,
Yeah.
does it still get water?
No. I mean, sometimes the water, it depends on how they break. Sometimes, generally, no, you can't get water because it's frozen. But sometimes the bottom plate, especially the brass meters, will break. It's kind of a sacrificial part of the meter. And the water will just start gushing out the bottom. He won't get any water out of the sink, but he'll get water all over the floor. In this case, the meter was, there was ice in the meter, but that plate had not broken yet. We have the meter in custody. It definitely was frozen.
So he calls up and says, I have no water in my house.
And we
We
got
come
it.
out and say, well, yeah, your
Right.
meter's frozen.
Right, and we change it.
We change it, charge him.
Yeah, that's the end of the story, that's what we did. He's alleging we cross-threaded the meter. We have the meter, it's not cross, it wasn't cross-threaded. Because you could tell with the brass threads if they were cross-threaded, you could see that. So he's just-
The meter is obviously situated in an environment that would run it in 3 years, twice to freeze.
Once the house was,
No.
once the house, when it froze 3 years ago, the house was vacant. Mrs. Wade was living someplace else, Mr. Wade was also living someplace else.
Okay, now, what happened to the meter?
And the house was not properly winterized,
Oh,
and so it froze. This case, it was in the basement. We had, probably you get 10 or 15 frozen meters every winter. We had 60 or 70. This year was just brutal. It just takes a draft and, fieldstone foundation,
Yep.
it doesn't take much. So, anyway,
Just a draft.
yes.
So you don't need any action by us other than
No.
following our normal procedures
That's right.
to notify him that
Exactly.
we have to pay that.
Right.
If he doesn't,
This-
we're going.
This second letter is a letter from the Archers that we discussed last month, and we denied their request, and they're asking you to reconsider. Oh, I'm sorry. They're lovely people. Last month, as you remember, they had both a frozen meter charge and an install and removal fee, which is standard. They asked you to waive all the charges. They've since come in and said, well, they really aren't, they understand about the frozen meter, but they would have made a different decision had we informed them that there was a charge. They came and asked us to remove the meter because they were going to go away because the plumber couldn't find a plumber to thaw the meter out, so they just went to South Carolina or North Carolina for a few weeks, and when they came back, everything was frozen. So they wanted us to remove the meter in case, to prevent a damage or the bottom bursting out and them having a flood. And we did that at their request. And they're upset that they weren't informed of the charge. And I don't want to help them. I didn't tell them there was a charge, but I thought they seemed like they were very specific in knowing what they wanted to have done. And
Are there any precedents on an issue like this?
not that I'm aware of. I think Bill will be back later and you could ask him. I mean, I'm not aware of any. I mean, I think last month it was, the board's position was charge is a charge. But,
So if they were informed of the $100 charge,
they're alleging they would have made a different decision.
and what other decision would or could they have made?
They would have left the meter and gotten another $200 meter, frozen meter charge. You know what I mean?
I'm trying to find out what other options they had
I don't know.
at the time. I mean, they could have called a plumber.
They did, and allegedly the plumber wasn't unsuccessful. I know Mr. Archer melted the first meter by trying to thaw it on his own. He used a heat gun on it instead of a hair dryer. It just melted the top. It was frozen anyway. The meter was terrible anyway. But he was all melted.
Jesus.
Did a good job.
So what do you need from us on this?
Just a decision, like I said. And if you want to defer that until you can talk to Bill, I mean, they've already paid the money, so you can hold this over till either Bill comes back at this meeting or, next month. I don't see where they would be, that would be a problem.
It's a very strategically written letter.
They're very lovely people. They're very, very nice people.
Oh, that's...
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So what I understand you say, that had they chosen another option, there was a chance of a second frozen meter. So you're being straightforward and honest with them, actually stating that. How much is another replacement meter?
A second meter in the calendar year would have been the cost of the meter, which is what, Al, 200 and...
200.
And the an extra $50 charge for the same customer has 2 frozen meters in a season, they get an extra charge on there for, being a frequent flyer.
So we're going 250.
So we actually saved them $50.
No, you saved them $150.
Right, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. You could have.
250, 800.
I'd like to just ask Bill if there's any precedent.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
right,
I don't know.
yeah. I would agree.
Yeah, I think we...
Defer this until...
Table that until you can
Yeah,
discuss it
table.
with Bill.
Yeah,
And as I
table
say,
that. So Bill gets here.
he had a personal emergency, so he said he would be back, but it might not be till 4:30. The only other correspondence to the resignation of 2 of our employees, which you have in the past.
Yeah.
So what percentage of your workforce is retiring?
More than I'd like.
They've been here a few days, haven't they? They've got a few birthdays here?
One gentleman who's been with us for 43 years.
Yeah.
Hard for me to picture not having him as a resource, because he's been here long, I'm here 34 years.
You're right.
So, we've kind of worked together for a long, long time. And the other guy's probably been here 35 years.
Right.
So yes,
Yeah.
they owe us nothing, but
Yeah, but you lose all the corporate memory with that.
you do.
Oh, yes.
It's going to be a rough couple of months for me.
You need a motion on accepting those retirements?
Yes, we do.
I'll move it.
Motion made and seconded that we accept the retirements.
Aye.
Okay.
Before you go to the superintendent, oh, sorry. I have several other things, quick things that just came up. One, I just need to notify you of this, that we have gotten a request from the union to negotiate a successor agreement to the contract. Contract expires at 31st of December 2015. By next month, I will have a letter, a retainer letter from the firm that our labor attorney, Sean Perlson. And we'll probably actually begin negotiations in October or November timeframe. That's just an information I think.
I'm assuming you're going to rehire their replacements.
Yeah, I have some, we can discuss that, we can discuss it now or bring in the executive session.
Whatever they think. I'm just saying, if the
yes.
guys is retired, if we-
Oh, we absolutely have to, absolutely.
That's personnel out of it.
Yes, yes, we have some options.
Right.
The other thing is, I am the regional, New York, we have a water and wastewater mutual aid association. There's one in every state but Mississippi. I don't understand why. Fully pushed and encouraged by the EPA to form these groups. After Katrina, they realized that after a natural or man-made disaster, if you can't, we all think of fire, police, EMS, but if you can't get water and wastewater back to a community, you can't support the community, you can't get it back to going, you can't even have the traditional first responders stay there. So I've been the regional co-chair for the Hudson Valley, Westchester area for a number of years, and I've been asked to become the chairman of the statewide group. New York is so big, we're split into 5 regions. And so I just kind of look at that. I'm more than willing to do it. It doesn't really take much of my time.
So this is the chairperson for?
New York State 911. The only thing that it would be is every October there's a national chair meeting. I'm fully funded to go to that. EPA pays for our travel and our hotels and attendance at the meeting. I just need a day and a half, 2 days off to go. That's about the only problem.
Explain this now, how it works, please.
It's a mutual aid, very much like electric and gas utilities do, or the fire department. It's I don't want to use the word contract, it's an agreement that essentially says, if I'm asked to provide assistance to another water utility or wastewater utility, we will do it if it's in our best interest to do it. And if we decide to do it, we can pull our people out any time. So it's strictly voluntary. But it puts all the indemnification and the repayment. So if our guys get $25 an hour and they go to Port Union to help them do something, Port Union pays us at our rate. Our workers' comp prevails, their liability insurance prevails, that kind of thing. It sets a time frame for repayment. And in a FEMA disaster, FEMA looks at that as a pre-approved contract, and so you get your reimbursement. And so Ulster is a member, we're a member, Port Union's a member, New York City DEP is a member. That's how we got the helicopter.
Now, how does this happen in regards to the supply of water? Does the same mutual aid concept work?
Mm-hmm. We have to only do it if we wanted to do it.
I understand.
But yes, or if we had the ability
Yeah, I'm
to
just
do it.
thinking back that the mutual aid that town of Ulster showed us with their breaking a water pipe.
And that's why they were able to do it, and that's
It was incredibly important.
absolutely, in 1988, we hooked them up like that as well,
Right.
when they had the oil spill. We hooked them up for 9 months.
And you had the same thing with Sandy with Port Union.
Yes, yes, yeah. It was a FEMA event, and we had that line across that bridge in no time. Yes.
That's the issue I was talking to you about.
But, so that's how that works.
I didn't know that, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Katrina was a driver.
Huh?
Katrina was a driver for that.
Yes.
And Kingston Water Department was the very first member in New York.
Just thinking out of the box here, our other neighbor is Hurley.
They should join too.
How would you go about doing that?
I would knock on Jeff Bo's door and talk to him about it.
Is it a town decision also?
No, it's a water supplier issue. I could talk to Gary Gallows though as well to see, if, you know,
But he might encourage,
he might encourage Jeff to do it, absolutely.
you know,
Jeff's pretty progressive.
yes, yes.
You know, he's pretty progressive. We've gone before NICOMCO, not NICOMCO, NICOM, the mayor's group. We've gone before Association of Towns, you know, we kind of give our spiel.
Yeah.
It
So
took-
currently it's a private water company versus.
Yeah, but private companies can join, sure. It took us years to get the New York City DEP on board,
Mhm.
and that was corporate, the lawyers were holding it up. We finally were successful in doing that.
No offense, Bill.
Well, I mean, you know, Bill actually,
I'm kidding.
no, Bill actually crafted the New York State agreement for us. I asked him, we had this template from EPA,
Yeah.
and he actually, I figured if he drafted it, he couldn't object to it. So,
I'm just thinking out of the box,
Yeah.
you know, you got neighbors and how do you serve a community and
Sure.
yes, we've.
I mean, we're reporting you to Ben if we weren't there.
No, and we have, as a group, we've gotten calls from people who, like the city of Hudson, who wasn't a member, we said, Troy said, we'll help you, but sign this piece of paper.
I'm thinking about immediate water supply or something.
Yes.
Something with them.
Yeah.
I should
And if
probably,
Jeff's wells went bad,
we could hook them up pretty quickly.
yeah.
Yes. We also have been trained to, many of us have been trained to sit in the state bunker. We also, we're part of the logistics group for a statewide emergency.
Yeah.
And we have access to the state stockpile for that kind of stuff, potable water pipe. The state after Sandy bought a bunch of potable filters, water treatment systems. That wouldn't help anything but a very small utility, but they would keep a hospital going or a prison or some kind of institution. The state realized that they don't have anybody that is licensed to operate them. So there's a group of us who have had the training on those units and could take them to somebody else and show them. So that's the arrangement they have with us. They bought the equipment and we've committed to keeping them in operation, which we've done, so. It's kind of,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Question. Yes, is the Woodstock Water Department a member?
nope,
They've been considering it, if you don't?
I don't know. They could. I mean, it's not for the information's out there.
What's the acronym?
NIWARN, New York Water and Wastewater Assistance Response Network.
You're right, they should be.
Yeah.